Hey folks, Dad here with Elevation Diecast Racing. Welcome to the Scale Mile High Valley Tournament. This is the first leg that will be contested down Mile High Raceway. This will be the stock race for all of the Johnny Lightning and Hot Wheel funny cars going down the track. And what we are going to do is run all of the Johnny Lightning funny cars down the right side of the bracket. These have all been randomly picked from that fabulous wheel generator. So I don't even know who is in the bracket where. So you're going to find out when I do, when I put them in the blocks. I had 30 cars entered. So the last one in the Hot Wheels bracket is a house car, as well as the Johnny Lightning. This tournament will span into next year. So we're ending 2023 with this tournament. The next stop will be Haywood Valley Raceway. And from there, it'll go to Scale Racing Channel. To win this race, it will be determined on a points-based system. If you make it out of round 1, you get a point. If you make it out of round 2, 2 points, 3 points, and so on. Winning the final race will get you 5 points. So, without any further ado, I wish everybody the best of luck with your entries. And thank you for entering this race. Just so you folks know, in the future, we will not limit the number of entries like we did on this race. I only did it this time because it's traveling to 3 tracks and it just gets a little hairy sending all those cars. So stay tuned for the next event that will be on Redline Derby coming in the end of February. All right, staged and ready in lane number 1. Representing Captain K Racing, driving in the Martin Racing funny car, Kirk Parker. And in lane number 2, representing Elevation Diecast Racing, it's Isaiah's race team with his Firebird funny car. Here we go. Fastest pass after lane swaps will be determined the winner. Woo! 2066 to 82. Switching lanes, 2066 will be the time to beat. 2064 and Isaiah's race team moves on to round number 2. Next up in the blocks, we have in the lane number 2 in the T-Rex funny car from Arlo Racing, it is Arlo. And in lane number 1, we have Knobby Ridge Dragway. Driver is Victor Fastlane in his Hot Wheels Firebird Hot Wheel livery funny car. Good luck, gentlemen. Woo, Arlo. 2068 to 79. Let's switch lanes. 2068 will be the time to beat. Wow. Arlo kicked in the juice. 2069 will move him into the next round. And we are rolling with a track temperature of 62 degrees. Next up in the blocks, in lane number 1, from Northern Roads Racing, it is the Hot Wheels White Plymouth Arrow taking on the number 12 car from Milestone Diecast. This is the Martin Racing funny car. Woo! White Arrow with a 2062 to 87. Let's switch those lanes up. 2062 is the time to beat. Wow, 2061 moves Northern Roads to round number 2. All right, next up in the blocks, in lane number 1, entrant number 30, representing Numbskull Racing, it is Numbskull in the Chase Plymouth Arrow. He'll be taken on in the number 4 spot from DRT3K Racing. Driver is Sam Hall, driving the Team Handy funny car from Hot Wheels. Let's see who takes it down the lane first. Ooh, good race. 2080 to 81. Let's switch them up. 2080, the time to beat if Numbskull wants to go ahead. Wow, what a race. 2076, he'll get it. Woo-hoo-hoo. Wow, Numbskull moving into the next round. What an impressive run. Okay, staged and ready. The number 24 car representing Scale Racing Channel. He'll be driving the blue Plymouth Arrow. He'll be taking on number 14 from Blue Line Racing. He'll be driving the Castro GTX Don Steve's funny car. Who gets down the lane first? Woo, good race. 2066 to 67. Let's switch lanes. 2066 is the time to beat. Wow, 2062 put down by Scale Racing. He'll be moving on to the next round. Okay, next up in the blocks, all the way from Haywood Valley, it is the Chase Family Racing. Driver is Count, driving the T-Rex funny car. He'll be taking on number 16 from Hot Rods Racing Customs. He'll be driving the red wheel Hot Wheel Racing funny car. Let's see who takes it. Good race. 2090 to 1 to 01. 2090, the time to beat. Good race. 2085 now put down. And the Chase Family Racing moving on to the next round. Up next in lane 1 from DXP Diecast Racing. It is the green Plymouth Arrow. He'll be taking on number 20 all the way from Germany, Bavarian Diecast Racing in his Hot Wheels school bus funny car. This ought to be good. Let's see who takes it down the lane first. Woo, what a race. 2072 to 78. 2072 is the time to beat. And wow, 2065. And that green arrow from DXP is moving on. All right, new to MileHigh Raceway. In lane number 2, with his Powerbird funny car, it's Fat Dad from Fat Dad Racing, taking on one of the house kids. Good run. 2070. Wow. 2070, the time to beat. 2071, very good race. Moves him on to the next round. All right, switching gears to the Johnny Lightning side of the bracket. Here we go. In lane number 1 from Milestone Diecast, it's the Color Me Gone in Blue. Taking on number 17 from Fat Dad Racing, it's the green Bob Banning funny car. Who gets down the lane first? Good race. 2109 to 23. 2109 put down by Milestone is the time to beat. Wow. 2097. Fat Dad pulling off a victory. He'll be moving on to the next round. Next up, driving in the number 7 from DXP Diecast Racing, it is the Bob Banning Dodge in blue. He'll be taking on number 23 from Scale Racing Channel. It is the yellow Wonder Wagon. Wow, good race. Wonder Wagon driving around him at the end. Let's switch those lanes up. 2091, the time to beat. Good race. 2087 put down by the Wonder Wagon. Moves Scale Racing to the next round. All right, next up in the blocks, number 25, all the way from Finland, Northern Roads Racing, driving the purple Barry Seltzer. He'll be taking on the number 15 car from Hot Rods Racing Customs. It is the Johnny Lightning gray variation of Roarin' Rudolph. Should be a good race. Wow. 2117 to 26. Let's switch them up. 2117, the time to beat. Wow. 2115. Wow. And Barry Seltzer is moving on. Okay, next up in the blocks in lane number 1, representing Elevation Diecast Racing, it's Dad's race team driving the Johnny Lightning Fiend. He'll be taking on the number 19 from Bavarian Diecast Racing, it is the Wonder Wagon in orange. Let's see who takes it. Woo, the Fiend. 2097 to 05. 2097, the time to beat. Woo, 2097 by Dad's race team propels him to the next round. Okay, back up in the blocks. In lane number 1 is car number 1 from Arlo Racing. Driver is Arlo in the gray variation of Roaring Rudolph. He'll be taking on the number 9 from Captain K Racing in the green variation of the Roaring Rudolph. This should be a good race. Woo-wee! Roaring Rudolph. 2092 to 12. 2092 put down by Arlo. 2092 will take it. Arlo moving to the next round. Okay, next up in the blocks, in the number 3 car from DRT3K Racing, driving in the green variation of the Roaring Rudolph, he'll be taking on the number 29 from Numbskull Racing. He'll be driving the Ram Chargers Lee Eliminator. Good race. Lee Eliminator, 2103 to a 10. Let's switch them. Rudolph needs to beat a 2103. Woo, good race. 2106 won't get it. Roaring Ram Chargers will be moving on. Next up in the blocks, the number 5 car from the Chase Family Racing, driving the Blue Max green funny car. And in lane number 2, driving the number 13 car, Blue Line Racing in his Roaring Rudolph. Let's see who takes it down the lane first. Woo! Blue Line with a 2090. Let's switch them up. 2090, the time to beat. Wow! 2084. Fastest Johnny time tonight. Moves Blue Line to the next round. All right, last race from the Johnny side of the bracket in round number 1. In lane number 1, driving the number 21 from Knobby Ridge Dragway, it's Victor Fastlane in his green Blue Max funny car. He's got to take on Bozo from the house. We're going to re-roll that because I'm certain those wheels are out of alignment. All right, here we go with the restart. Victor Fastlane with a 2142. And that will move him to round number 2. Okay, round 1 is in the books. This is the Lightning side. On up to the Hot Wheels side of things. Let's get them in the blocks for round 2. In lane number 1, Arlo Racing, driving his T-Rex, taking on Elevation Diecast Racing. It's Isaiah's race team and his Hot Wheel Firebird funny car. This ought to be a good race. Woo! 2065 to 74. Let's switch them. Good race. 2063 to 67 moves Isaiah's race team to the next round. Next up in the blocks, you got a pair of Plymouth Arrows in lane number 1. Numbskull Racing with his Chase Arrow. And in lane number 2, it's going to be Northern Roads Racing with his white Plymouth Arrow. This should be another great race. Woo! Look at that white arrow go. 2063 to 80. Let's switch lanes. 2063, the time to beat. Woo! Closer race that time, but it is Northern Roads moving on to round number 3. Up next, in lane number 1, we have Scale Racing Channel with his blue Plymouth Arrow taking on the Chase Family Racing in his T-Rex funny car. Great race. 2066 to 82. Let's switch them. 2066, the time to beat. Wow. A lot tighter that time, but 2063 moves Scale Racing to round number 3. All right, staged and ready. In the number 18 car from Fat Dad Racing in his Hot Wheels Powerbird Funny car, taking on DXP Diecast Racing in his green Plymouth Arrow. Woo, good race. 2062 to 69. Let's switch them up. 2062, the time to beat. Good race. 2065, and DXP moves himself into round number 3. On to the Lightning. In lane number 1, we got Fat Dad Racing in his Bob Banning Funny car, taking on Scale Racing Channel in his yellow Wonder Wagon. Good race. Wonder Wagon with a 2085. We'll switch him up. Looks like the Wonder Wagon's waking up. Let's see if he can do it again. Oh, wow. 2086 moves him into round 3. Next up in lane number 1 from Elevation Diecast Racing, representing Dad's race team, is the driver. He'll be taking on Northern Roads Racing in his purple Barry Seltzer funny car. Good race. Woo, the Fiend. 2096 to 24. Let's switch them. 2096, the time to beat. Wow, good race. 2094 moves the Fiend to round 3. In lane number 1, it is Numbskull Racing taking on Arlo Racing in his Rowan Rudolph. Let's see who takes this one. Should be a good one. Wow, even race. 2092 with a 10,000 beat by Arlo. Let's switch those lanes up. In the event of a tie, if this race ends up with a 2092 and a 10,000 beat, the fastest lap after switching lanes in a solo run will determine the winner. 2092 and a 10,000 beat by Arlo Racing. Good race. Arlo takes it with a 2101 to 07. All right, last one for this round. In lane number 1 from Knobby Ridge Dragway is Victor Fastlane in his Blue Max green Johnny Lightning funny car, taking on the number 13 entry from Blue Line Racing. It is Rowan Rudolph. Rudolph just takes off with a 2092. We'll switch him up. 2092 is the time to beat. Woo! Rudolph takes off. 2084 gets him to round number 3. Jumping back over to the Hot Wheels side of things. In lane number 1, it's Northern Roads Racing taking on Isaiah's race team from Elevation Diecast Racing. Good race. 2064 to 66. Let's switch them. 2064, the time to beat. Good race. 2061 by Northern Roads Racing will get him to the next round. Good race. Next quarter or semifinal match comes down to Captain K Racing in his... No, I'm sorry. That's DXP Diecast number 8 in his Plymouth Arrow funny car, taking on the number 24 from Scale Racing Channel in his Blue Arrow funny car. This should be a good race. Woo, man. 2059. Woo-wee. That's a good time. 2059 set down by Scale Racing is the time to beat. Woo, what a race. 2064. 2059 for Scale Racing moves him on to the next round. Back to the Lightning bracket. All right, in lane number 1 from Elevation Diecast Racing, it's Dad's race team in the Fiend taking on the Scale Racing Channel in his Wonder Wagon. Let's see who takes it. Good race. The Fiend with a 10,000 beat. Let's switch them up. 2089, the time to beat. Woo, looks like he'll do it. 2081. Woo-wee. moves Scale Racing on to the next round. Wow, that's a great time. Okay, next up in lane number 1, Arlo Racing in his Roaring Rudolph, taking on Blue Line Racing in his Roaring Rudolph. Let's see who takes it. Ooh, good race. 2083. Let's switch them. 2083 is the time to beat. Good race. 2079. Oh, my Lanta. Very, very good time. Moves Blue Line on to the next round. All right. So this is the semifinals. This will be the final race in this bracket. And the final race on the Johnny Lightning side of things. Okay, lane number 1 is the Blue Arrow from Scale Racing taking on the White Arrow from Northern Roads. This should be a really good race. Who's going to the final race? Woo, man, is that good. 2064 to 67, switching lanes. 2064, the time to beat. Wow, good race. 2064. I did say a tie would result in 2 solo runs. Fastest time after lane swaps. Here's Northern Roads. 2064. 2067. Scale Racing Channel. 2065. 2067. We'll put Northern Roads in the final race representing the Hot Wheel Funny Car. Okay, on the Johnny Lightning side, in the Wonder Wagon is Scale Racing Channel, taking on Roaring Rudolph with Blue Line Racing. Good race! 2084 to 87. We'll switch lanes. 2084 is the time to beat. 2077 will do it. And Blue Line moves to the final race. All right, here is the stock race final funny car representing Team Hot Wheels from Northern Roads Racing in his white Plymouth Arrow. And then representing on the Johnny Lightning side of the bracket is the Roaring Rudolph, driven by Blue Line Racing. Let's see it. Best 2 out of 3 will take the win. Race 1. Woo! 6-8 to 8-8. We'll switch them. Northern Roads up 1. Good race. 6-5 to 8-0. And that'll be it. The race for third is Brandon at Scale Racing. Both of his entries made it. One of his entries will be in third. Good race. 2079 to 66. 2063. Very good runs. And there it is, your overall winner of the Hot Wheels versus Johnny Lightning Funny Car race in this first leg of the Scale Mile High Valley Tournament. Northern Roads Racing with his white Plymouth Arrow. Coming in second, Johnny Lightning, the fastest Johnny Lightning funny car, driven by Blue Line Racing in his Roaring Rudolph. And placing third in his blue Plymouth Arrow funny car, Brandon from the Scale Racing Channel. I want to thank each and every participant in this race. We will have the modified leg of this race before we send them over to the Chase Family Racing for the circuit leg of this race. And then from there, they'll be heading over to the Scale Racing Channel for another drag race. Should be good. Points are accumulating. Points will be added up. And we'll see where they stand momentarily. Thank you for racing. This has been a fun one. Okay, so here are the standings heading into Haywood Valley Raceway. Northern Road 16, Scale Racing 12, Blue Line Racing 10, Elevation 6, Arlo 4, DXP 3, Fat Dad Racing, and Numbskull with 2, and Knobby Ridge Dragway with 1. And here's a quick overview of how I did it. If you made it into round 1 with either one of your cars, or into round 2, you got a point, and so on and so forth. So that is how we did the points. That was a lot of fun. Stay tuned. I will be putting up the mod series of the race where it will be the fastest times advancing into the next round. It won't be a bracket since we only have 26 cars entered into that one. So it should be great racing. We're going to see who's fast and who gets past. So from all of us over here at Elevation Diecast Racing, we will see you on the next race where we'll shoot some modifieds down Mile High Raceway. It's tournament time. Be fast or be last. See ya.